Okay. Welcome back to ROVA HoopCast. On this week's episode, we've got a special guest, episode 4. This special guest is very special, and he's came from a background that is different than most others, and he's really rose above a lot of people around the area, and it's been a blast knowing him throughout my whole life. But I'm just gonna give him a little introduction right now. Bryce Woodliff, he amazing basketball player, amazing coach, and amazing person as well. But where he started, I know in high school you played at North Cross, correct? Yep.
Mhm.
And then you transferred to Greenbrier East. I know
Yep.
that. And then you got the chance to go play at Georgia Southern.
Yep.
And you faced some adversity and all that. I know you had injuries throughout your career, but you took your talents back to Roanoke, finished out there, and then after you went to Southwest Mississippi
Yep.
to coach. Yeah.
Down there
Yeah.
in deep south, man.
And
Deep
also
South.
Massanutten too.
Yep. I was
So
up there.
you've been around a lot of ball. So
Yeah, it's
just-
been a long,
Yeah.
whole life of basketball,
Yeah.
man. When I tell people you got to eat, breathe, sleep basketball, I can say I'm one of those people who's been able to actually be, that person who had to literally go to sleep, 12 o'clock at night because practice doesn't end until 7 or 8. Then you have to do homework. Then you might have to get something to eat, and then on top of that you gotta have some time to yourself. So it was
Yeah.
always like consistently moving. So you go to sleep at 12, and then you wake up at 5 because you have to be at practice by 5:30 because practice starts at 6.
of
So
course.
always eat, breathe, sleep basketball. If you really do love the game, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Some people really don't love it, and that's not calling nobody out. That's just calling it how it is. But
Yeah.
if you really love it, you gotta
you gotta
really
love it.
you gotta love it, man. You can't just like the game of basketball.
Can't just say you love it. You really gotta love it.
You gotta
so.
love it.
yeah,
Like
that
almost
passion.
I've told you in the past, I've told my other players in the past, you kind of gotta treat the basketball like, a significant other, like it's a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta really cherish her. You gotta, take her out and do things with her in terms of basketball, just working out and constantly shooting, constantly working on your game, watching the game. Like you have to really treat, the basketball like she's your girlfriend because she can take you wherever you want to go if you really dedicate everything to her. But if you don't, she'll find somebody else that loves her way more and get them to the next spot in their life with basketball. So
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for joining us this week, and let's go
Appreciate
ahead
you,
on to
man.
our 3
All right.
segments. And Bryce, for segment 2, we're gonna move on to basketball around the area, regionals, and then moving further into states. But I'll go ahead. I got a couple of the brackets printed out here right now, but we'll
Alright.
start with class 2. So Ryan and them are doing their thing right now, but region 2 is kind of it's weird because everybody's beating each other, and sometimes there's a lot of upsets that are happening.
yeah,
But right now, Floyd's playing very well. Radford's kind of going on up and down. I think they should be able. They play Allegheny first. I think Radford will win that, and then there's Gretna and Martinsville, Floyd County and Patrick County, and then Glenver and James River. I think
okay,
Ryan and them travel to Glenver on Tuesday and play them, but
yeah.
that's what I
They got a nice. I mean, they got a competitive
yeah.
class right there. I think, like any basketball, especially when it's this part of the season, it's all about who shows up to play,
Oh, yeah,
right?
of
You know what I
course.
mean?
Playoff
These games are different than your average, regular season game because it's more about who's going to execute the most plays, who's going to get the most possessions, who's going to get the 50-50 balls.
Yeah,
So
of course.
and it's a win or go home game. So
Yeah.
of course people start taking things a little bit more personal. It's gonna get a little bit more chippy. Refs are probably gonna let you play a little bit more, so you're not gonna get as many foul calls. But that's also the thing with their class is you said that they play at Radford University, right?
Yeah. That's where they play. All the games are played.
So there's
I
really
think
there's
finals.
like a
Yeah,
finals is at Radford.
So
Okay. Well, that's still pretty good for the most part because
Yeah.
you got the home court
Neutral.
advantage, but then once you get to that championship, you have that neutral site. So
Well, if Radford makes it,
that's a
they
home
got a little bit.
Yeah, that's a home court advantage, man. I think speaking of that, didn't Radford play Gate City a couple years ago at Radford for like the region
think
championship?
so.
I think they did.
Yeah.
I think think Gate City won, if I'm not mistaken. Or,
That
yeah, I
was
think Gate City may
yeah.
have won. But that was just bringing that up. Shout out to Mac McClung for winning
Yeah,
that
that
dunk
was
contest last night. I just
that
have to
was
say that.
amazing. He brought it back for
Yeah.
it
Had to
was
shout out his region. We're talking about region 2. We're talking about
Yep.
2A, so I got to talk about them for a
And
second.
we've got one of their but as we move into 3D, Botetourt, we got Abingdon on Tuesday, and I know that was I saw a picture the other day. Kid that plays for Emory, Jake Thacker, he was posting something about they always use the picture when he stood under the rim when Mac was dunking it, and Mac's like all the way above the rim, but he missed the dunk. But the newspaper and
picture.
everything, Mac McClung goes up for a slam.
Oh
all
yeah,
that.
yeah. He was
But
embarrassed.
yeah,
So you say he's where? He's at Abington?
well, Jake is at Emory now.
Emory, but he went to Abington.
He went to Abington.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know Abingdon and Gate City. I believe they play each other. When I was looking at Max Press, they play each other.
They're right there near each other.
They're right
so
next to
they're
each
not
other.
too far. That's all right.
But
y'all got a tough little schedule yourselves.
I know for first round, Northside got the bye, Tunstall got the bye, and William Byrd and Magna Vista played, I believe, Friday. Byrd ended up winning that game by 10.
Okay.
Hidden Valley and Carroll County played. Carroll beat them by 16. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
All right, yeah. So quarterfinals start Tuesday. Northside and Byrd, us and Abingdon, Cave Spring and Bassett. Bassett might.
Yeah, how's Bassett look this year?
I don't.
I
It's kind of like last year. I don't know.
I know last year they kind of had this. They had Branson.
Yeah.
Branson Maddox, who was an elite scorer, elite player, defender. And
I haven't watched Bassett's film at all this year. That's one team I probably have not looked at.
Yeah.
But they have Cave and then Tunstall and Carroll. Tunstall will beat Carroll even though.
Tunstall's very athletic, man.
Undefeated right now.
They're an athletic team. I watched them play their AAU team play over the summer. And,
what was their name?
I think they were called. Man, I don't want to get the line. I forgot the name of them, but I remember they were like black and gray. But they had a bunch of athletes, and I was told by one of the players that they're all the players that play at Tunstall, which I think is very good for a lot of programs too.
Yeah.
If you can have that same program that you play with in high school and make an AAU team out of it, and then you're playing year round, that's why it's no surprise that they're undefeated. Even though granted, schedule isn't the strongest, right?
Yeah.
But they're winning every game, and I mean, playing with that chemistry helps a lot. So
yeah, and there's not a lot of high school teams that kind of go off and venture and create an AAU team. It's more like the prep schools, the post grads and stuff. Like public high schools, you don't really see that anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, we got ours coming up too this week, man. We got
go ahead and talk about your bracket.
Yeah, man, we got we're 5A Region D, but I mean, it's looking pretty tough for the most part. I mean, we played Albemarle first game. We played Albemarle earlier in the year. Great game. I mean, I think they were beating us at one point. I think it was in the third quarter. They just had like a crazy run. They go up like 6 or 8 points. Going into the fourth, we come out in the fourth quarter. Started playing really great defense, hedging screens hard, making sure when we did, want to trap guys come off the ball screen, trapped them really hard, coming up with a lot of loose balls. 50-50s was huge for that game because Albemarle is just that type of team. I mean, the coach does a lot of camps, I know, for Tony Bennett at UVA.
Yeah.
So their scheme of playing basketball is almost kind of like that UVA style. Like, let's slow you down. Let's play in the gaps. Let's take charges. Offensively, let's run good sets to get everybody open, honestly. I mean, they'll run a set that you'll think is for their post guy, and then they'll have a down screen for their shooter, so you think it's for him, but then they have a cross screen for their other shooter coming baseline, so you're like, how can I really stop that? So Albemarle is a pretty well coached team.
Did they play Fluvan at the beginning of the year?
I'm not sure. They might have.
I always get Western.
Because Western, I'm about to say Western and Albemarle, but both teams
Albemarle
are
like
they're navy
blue,
red,
blue and red. Yeah, okay. So Fluvanna played them. One game was actually really close.
Really?
And then the other one, I believe it was like a 20-point blowout. But I watched the film. That's a game that I watched film on when Fluvanna played Albemarle. And the white kid, number 3, maybe about
number
2,
6,
something like that. He's like
number 2. He's
6'4".
Yeah, he's
something.
6'4" shooter.
He's athletic.
Yeah, he can shoot, jump.
He can.
Him and his brother. So his brother he's a sophomore. His brother's a junior.
Yeah.
The youngest one actually coached against them this summer. They played for a team out of Charlottesville called Team Vision.
That's who Gardner played for.
Okay.
He played for Fluvanna.
Okay. So that's what happened with them is that, they were playing with them. And same thing, the coach, not the coach for Albemarle, but the Charlottesville area coach, rallied the guys, some of the Charlottesville high school guys, some of the Albemarle guys, Western Albemarle guys, put them all on this one team. And, I mean, they're a pretty hard-fought team. I mean, we played them, I think, 3 or 4 times this year, and we beat them. We beat them twice in the championship. They beat us once in the championship. So it was always competitive. But Albemarle has a pretty good team. If we win, we'll play. We'll play the winner of. We'll play Riverbend if we win. If we lose, we'll have to go. I think to not Massaponax, but I think we have to go to Potomac Falls. So
y'all have a long drive for.
Yeah, if we lose, we go to
region,
Potomac Falls. Yeah. Oh yeah,
all
game.
The games.
Yeah, every game. That's why
y'all have to go near up Fredericksburg, right?
And that's the thing about our region specifically is that like it's very big that we try to play games that will keep us above, get us the most points for the region because it's all about having home court advantage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So you don't want to play teams that are in a lower class and. It'd be a good game where they win, right? Because then you'll get hurt in your points and then you'll slip. And it happened to a lot of teams like that in our region, actually. Like they're playing teams that aren't in the same class or higher, and they're losing.
That's what happened to us. I know.
So, I mean, it's tough.
Because Abingdon doesn't really play their strength. I mean, we have one of the highest strengths.
Yeah, y'all do.
It's up there. And I know Abingdon's isn't very high. I don't know. But all their little wins build up and beat our little losses. So. I mean,
it's good. I mean, it's all right. I mean, it's a part of it, It's just about, making sure that at the end of the day you just gotta win those games. You know what I mean? You gotta win the ones that count the most. You feel me? Losing against for you guys, losing to us, PH doesn't hurt you guys as much because we're 5A.
Yeah.
Right. But if you beat us, it helps you a lot. So it's like you pick and choose which games you want to play like that. But if you're gonna play, a class lower, you just gotta make sure you beat the crap out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true.
That's just what it is.
All right, well, that was a good kind of overview on what's going on, and that's kind of going to be a weekly thing for me and my dad as we keep posting podcasts. I know all the games are played at VCU for the state championship finals. We're gonna start out the episodes with stuff just explaining the games and then the past week and everything. But that was awesome, and we're gonna go ahead and head on to segment 2. All right, Bryce, for part 2 of the podcast, I want to kind of go back to you for a minute and ask you a couple questions about when you played ball. And, I mean, you could hoop. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I can hoop a little bit. I'll give myself some credit.
Yep. But just go ahead and just explain, like, how the game was when you played and, the resources and what's available to kids now that wasn't available to you, and just how the game has really changed.
I mean, it's crazy to think about, how things evolve, and as you get older, you start realizing like the everything's gonna keep getting better, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing's gonna stay the same. And that's kind of how it was. I remember like when I was a kid, we really eat, breathe, sleep basketball. I mean, like you wake up in the morning, you want to go to the park. It would go from the parks, to the court, like the inside courts, until like all the way coming back home, and you want to just have like one of those small Nerf basketball goals in your room and just play all day. Right. So it was like constant playing. And that's just kind of how it was. And like we used to utilize, going to the parks for me was like my trainer, right? Because at the end of the day, like I knew more old heads were gonna be up there.
Yeah.
People who had more knowledge of the game were gonna be up there. And not per se like everybody that I came across wasn't like the super best, right? But they had more knowledge about the game than
all
I
that
did.
knowledge that you learned, each piece built and created.
And like I needed them to give me that to be able to grow, right? I mean, like I could have tried to figure it out on my own, but that would have been a way longer process. So just going to the parks. I remember going to like, Preston Park was right up the street from my house. So that used to be a real popular court back in the day when I was a kid. I mean, all the way from, no cap. I mean, it was from 3 p.m. or 3:30, 3:40 p.m. when school let out until, kids would keep playing until like 10 o'clock at night. And they had like the lights on the court. So, it was so easy to just get out there and hoop. And they had 2 courts. And they had 1 court that was for like the grown, like good players. And then they had the whack court, you know what I mean? That like all the kids would be like, it'd be 4-year-olds out there dribbling the ball out there on that court, you know what I mean, messing up your game, and you had to deal with it.
Yeah.
But on the main court, they made sure like no balls come over there, nobody come and interrupts the game. So just seeing, you know, the transition even from like us playing like park ball, and I guess you can call it street ball. And like nowadays, like you don't see it as much. It's not as much street ball. And I think that like when you look at the game that's played now, it's like street ball on the court. You know what I'm saying? But they don't play street ball as much. So it's kind of weird how do you like see things evolve that way.
Yeah.
But it's all because of, you know, the power of the internet, you know, the power of all these trainers, you know, people who are taking time to actually give back the game to the youth without the youth having to go out their way to figure it out, you know, because we didn't have the internet all the way until I was, you know, I didn't have YouTube watching videos, especially until I was kind of like 14, 15. So everything that I kind of seen about basketball was like Space Jam, Above the Rim, Blue Chip, like with Shaq. I remember like watching all these basketball movies, and that was like the way, and like watching N1 basketball was like a way to find how to do moves, right? Like, and that was just so unique. And like now, it's gotten even better, right? Like people kind of give, you know, some trainers a hard time. But one thing that I could say, and I'm not being biased because I'm a trainer, I'm just speaking like facts, is that, you know, it all depends on how you train, right? Like every trainer has different techniques and different ways of doing things. And like me personally, I kind of took it upon myself being a trainer to make the game for my players feel easier. Because when you're out there and you got the noise, you got you got your parents, you got the opposite team, you got all these players in your ear, like telling you what to do, like it's so easy to kind of get like nervous and kind of like shaky and rush, or, you know, do things that you're not used to doing because you have all that stuff in your ear. But like, you know, when I train kids and I like, you know, want to get them better, I just always try to implement that same thing in the training style. You know what I mean? And then like on top of that, be physical and like, you know, talk junk to you and do that stuff just so, you know, you could be built for those times, because it's gonna come, especially if you want to be good. Like I used to tell you all the time, like if you want to be great, like you're gonna have to be built different, right? Like you're gonna have to be able to like take the talk. Like when people like, yo, that white boy can't do this, or
there's
that white
stuff
boy
that I gotta do that some other people don't have to deal with. Yeah, I know.
And I know how hard it is. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not easy. But that's the way, like I said, the game has evolved. It's like having certain trainers like myself and like the other good trainers you've worked with, like we've all been kind of like placing these things that we've went through from like our park experience and like us growing up playing against the best of the best and like using that knowledge and just giving it back to you. So, you know, seeing the way the game has evolved is great. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at the NBA, more threes are being taken in any shot right now.
Oh, of course.
And that's crazy to me. But it just shows you that, you know, people are more skilled now. You know, you got 7-footers shooting, you know, 35-footer, you know, foot threes. You know what I mean? You got people like Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant and, you know, so many of these good players, and Joel Embiid, who can be like guards, that it really does make the game seem different. I mean, I even look at, you know, the high school guys around here. We got kids that are 6'3", 6'4" playing post. Right? Like, let's be real. Like, you go to the next level, that 6'3", 4" guy is going to cross you up. Yeah, he's going to be busting you if you think you're just going to be playing him in the post. So, you know, to see the game evolve is a good thing. You know, I'm very thankful to be a part of the evolution of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was able to see, you know, one way that the game was played to another way to now a whole different type of way of basketball. And it's like some of the things that we used to be like, whoa, like that's crazy. Now it's normal, right? And like you have to do something
like something simple,
to you guys, like me doing like a, you know, in and out cross back in the day was a crowd pleaser, and it still is a crowd pleaser, right? But like nowadays, if you do like an invert drag, like an invert step, and then you like snatch them and then wrap it around, like people are like, oh my goodness, like so it's a little bit different. But it's always good, man. You know, I appreciate the game of basketball. Like I said, I love it. So just to see, you know, people like you know, being a young player, just grow constantly and actually take what people are giving you and using it, bro, is great. You know what I mean? Like even us, and we could just talk about like Rousey. Like you having access to that portion of like basketball is like totally different than any other player around here, because Andrew has like done more than majority of people around here, right? So to
Yeah.
have like that access when he comes to the workout sessions and like you're able to pick his
I
brain.
mean, yeah, always being able to learn from both of y'all is, I mean, I take it, like I come home and I write it down, and I mean, I put it on my wall. I make sure like I do stuff, and I mean, just being able to, from somebody that has that much knowledge and, kind of the same background,
Yeah, seriously.
just a different, kind of path that it was taken. But yeah, I mean, it's always great being
Yeah,
able to
and that's
learn
good
from
stuff,
different
man. That's good
generations.
stuff. So like I said, like the evolution of it is good because Rousey was you at one point,
Yeah.
right? And I'm pretty sure he didn't have too many people that he could relate to like himself that he had right around the corner
Yeah.
or a phone call away, right? So like to see that part like evolve of, former players now coming back and like actually giving back to the community more, right? It's huge for the youth coming up now. You know what I mean? Because now you're gonna be that person coming back and talking to Twin Hoops, right? And like being that kid to say, I grew up here, like I
Yeah.
went to school here, like now I'm playing college ball, like 1,000-point career, I was first team all district player of the year, like all these things is like now you can pour
Yeah.
into it. So, now you're the next part of the evolution and like the other ones behind you as well. But like it's definitely it's gonna keep growing, bro. It's
Yeah,
gonna keep
and
getting
especially talking about how the game has changed. Going back to Rousey, I mean, I remember I was watching it when I was little, into now, like his game. I mean, of course, he keeps those little pieces that he's carried throughout his
better.
career,
Yeah.
but just watching him in high school, pulling it up from the volleyball line consistently, and he had that floater.
Yep.
But the moves that he does now and all the fadeaways, the mid range stuff like that, like you didn't see that from him
No.
when he was in high school, his first year at Asheville and stuff. His
No.
game kept evolving each year, and out now as his pro career is still going on and stuff. But yeah,
It's good, bro. It's it's
it
it's,
is.
it's, it's one of the, and that's like even for you going forward, like allow yourself to grow,
Yeah.
right? And like the only way you'll be able to do that is being able to take accountability,
Yeah.
right? When you're wrong, right? If you haven't worked hard enough, you need to work harder, right? If you're missing shots, then that means you're not getting up enough shots,
Mhm.
right? So it's just like those parts of the game that's gonna help you get to the next level. And that's to any kid out there. Like, don't always look to point the finger at someone else when you could be the blame, right? Like you could be the blame for why you aren't as good as what you are, right?
Yeah,
Like
there's no excuses for not working
there's
hard.
no excuses, bro. Like you can sit here and say, I don't have a trainer. Okay, well you have internet. Like,
Can't expect a result when you don't even put forth the effort
you know what I'm
to
saying? So
earn.
as the game still evolves, right? We just want to put, I just want to put emphasis that as a young player, being that I've played, I've coached it, like my career's over with. I wish even I could say like I put in more work, right? So like to the youth, like don't be that person. Like don't
take things for granted.
don't take it for
especially- yeah,
granted, bro. Because once it's gone, right? And then
Forever,
you'll be
yeah.
sitting somewhere looking like, dang, I wish I would have did this. Dang, I wish I would have did that. And like those are the things that eat you alive because there's no changing it.
Yeah.
Like once it's done, right? And of course you're gonna move on because time just moves on. But your mental is gonna be stuck in that point of that state because you're not able to get away from it,
Yeah.
right? Because you made a mistake. So it's kind of like I'm telling all the kids now, all the young players, like give it everything you have now. So when it's the future comes your way, you're not sitting back saying I wish I would have, or I wish I could have, or I wish I should have. You can actually say, man, I have no regrets. Like I did everything I could. If it didn't work out best for me, that's fine. But at least I worked my butt off, right?
Yeah.
So that's my thing to you athletes out there. While the game's evolving, you have to let your game evolve as well. Like don't let the game pass you because it will. You know
Hey,
what I
he's
mean?
giving you all great knowledge, so I
Being
mean,
honest.
trust me, listen to him. I mean, learn from me. But all right, that was an awesome segment, and we'll head on to the third one. All right, and for segment 3, we're gonna hit on like we just came off. I mean, really doing what you love and what it really takes. So sacrifice is what this segment's gonna be about, and just go ahead and hit on that.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the word sacrifice, I'm not thinking about, I do think about, Jesus Christ, my Savior is, what He sacrificed for us, and allowing us to be on this earth and sin and be forgiven, right?
Yeah.
And all these things that He's done for us is something that I consider sacrifice. But when I think about like the life that we live on earth, and think about the word sacrifice, it is stemming off of like, whatever you're really, in love with, whatever you're willing to give your time to, that's the part of the sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Because something has to go, right? You only have so much room for, priorities, right? You can't have 10 priorities. You know what I'm saying? Like, because then that'll drive you crazy. You got to like really like, rank your priorities, and whatever those top priorities are, you make the needed sacrifices for it.
Yeah.
So like for me, like I remember, just sacrificing time of, on the weekends of not hanging out with friends and playing AAU ball and, doing things with, maybe my parents or with my family. And all those things to me at the time, I didn't realize what I was doing. I kind of just seen it as like, man, I'm just staying busy. But as I grew up, I started realizing, I mean, that is a form of sacrifice because I could have been having fun with the fellas or, trying to do this and do that. But instead I gave my time to something that I love.
Yeah.
And the things that I love, like I said, was family and basketball. Right. And like, of course, education. Like I spent time, doing homework on the weekends when I had it. But for the most part, the things that I had my top priorities is the things that I sacrificed for. So I can give you a couple stories. I'll give you this one story. I'll never forget it. My junior year in high school, I had to make a decision, right? I was getting recruited, but not heavy. I mean, I had a good amount of D3s that was looking at me. Couple D2s, but nobody was really throwing offers, right? It was just more so interest. So my senior year, I was like, man, I need to go somewhere different. And I had no idea where I wanted to go. I kind of knew where I wanted to go, but I had no idea, honestly, because I knew that like if I were to choose whatever school I had to go to, it was gonna come down to are those coaches doing what's best for the players? Is the school a good academic school? Like, can I really get a good education still? Is it gonna prepare me for college? Like all those things is what was in my mind, and I will never forget. Like, it was all God. I was able to, Dad took a job in West Virginia. Stepdad took a job in West Virginia. We moved to West Virginia. I ended up going to Greenbrier East. Played high school ball there for Jim Justice, who at the time owned the Greenbrier. I never knew him until I got up there, and that experience to me was phenomenal. Right? It was the biggest sacrifice that I've probably ever made. But it was the sacrifice that has made me who I am today. And that's what I'll tell. Like again, back to the youth. Right? Like be willing to make sacrifices for yourself that's going to put you in the best situation. It might not look like the best at the time because you're just thinking about the now, right? You're thinking about like, for me, like, man, it's my senior year. Like, I want to hang out with my boys. Like, I want to be able to be in the city. Like, I want to be able to, do this and do that. But, I knew at the end of the day, like, that was just all temporary, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to say temporary, but I knew I could always come back to that stuff whenever, I stopped doing what I really wanted to do. So I took it as a sacrifice upon myself and like my mom and, my stepdad. And we moved to West Virginia, right? And played there and, had a great season. I was all-state player. I think it was at that time I was honorable mention for whatever. I think it was more so politics, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I was an all-region player. Played alongside some good players as well, Rondell Watson, my boy Obi Romeo. We didn't get to the state, but we did make it to the regional championship. We lost. But, that was the best sacrifice for me, right? Because I needed to get out of my comfort zone. And I tell people every day, literally this is an everyday thing for me. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Like that's something that when I was that age, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I didn't realize what being comfortable and uncomfortable was. I just knew like I like what I like or or I feel better in this situation. But, I never had nobody tell me like be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And in that situation is when I first had to, realize what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was the most uncomfortable situation because I'm moving to West Virginia, a place that I don't know anybody. I'm moving to one of the like most countryest towns. And when I say country, I love Lewisburg. People know like Lewisburg, White Sulphur. Anybody, from that area seeing this, I love that spot. But it's very low key, in terms of being in Roanoke City. So for me, it was like, dude, like I'm leaving everything I've ever known and going to something completely different, like to a spot I don't know anybody, right? And I remember walking into high school the first day and like everybody's looking at me and everybody's, whispering. Like,
Did you know a single kid on the team?
I didn't know anybody. So
Yeah.
I did. So the crazy thing is about this whole, my whole story about, Greenbrier East and taking the, opportunity was my boy Rondell Watson that I played with at Greenbrier East. I knew of him because we both went to the Oak Hill Academy basketball camp when we were younger. Like
Yeah.
I was just coming off my knee injury in ninth grade. So I was going to the 10th and he was eighth going to the ninth. So I remember like us two being like, it's like they chose like four people to hoop with the staff, right? The four nicest people that was at the camp to hoop with the staff. And the camp was loaded full of talent, but like we had the best couple days that was there at the time. We had the best, I think it was like the first 2 days, we showed out the most. So I remember like me, Rondell, a kid from Maryland, and then another kid from like Texas got called up to play with the adults. So we played that game, and that was the last thing I've ever heard of Rondell,
Yeah.
right? And then I get to high school my senior year, and they're like, "Yeah, it's another kid named Rondell Watson to go here," and I'm like, "Man, that name sounds familiar," but that was the only person that I kind of like knew of,
Yeah.
right? So like I said, when I went up there, it was just a eye opener, but it showed me more about life, right? It showed me more about how serious it is to be diverse, because we already live in a world that is almost kind of seen as like black and white. You know what I'm saying? So like even for us to be sitting at this table together, it's like we're overcoming a lot because at
Yeah.
the one point it wasn't like this. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to be diverse and understand another person's culture, and other states' culture as well, like it was huge for me because I needed that in my life at the time because I was so one dimensional. Like all I ever knew was Roanoke, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of understanding what West Virginia's like and Lewisburg and West Virginia's like. And it just opened my eyes to a whole different type of, way of learning and a way of like, experiencing stuff and actually fulfilling that, like having that fulfillment of like, man, I was able to go to the Greenbrier. Like not a lot of people can say they can go to the Greenbrier. Like I've been there, like I've stayed there, like I've worked there, like I've played there. Like we've done so many things at the Greenbrier, and that was like something I've never seen myself doing. Like eating at 44 West, which is Jerry West Steakhouse inside the Greenbrier. I didn't even know that before I got up there. So it opened my eyes really, like the word sacrifice opened my eyes to a lot.
Yeah.
Because like without me making that sacrifice, I probably would have never, been in those situations where I've, been able to work at the Greenbrier and, you know, eating Jerry West Steakhouse and, be at the PGA Tour when the Greenbrier, when the Greenbrier Classic was there. Like all these things kind of have helped me through it. And then, I revisited back to making another sacrifice when I moved to Mississippi, right? Like a lot of people don't know it, but I moved there in 2019, and that was like a year and a half after I graduated college. And you got to think, man, I'm already broke, right? So I made a life decision at that time to move down there because I love basketball so much that I was willing, again, back to even high school, like I was willing to make that move if it meant I was going to be a better coach,
Yeah.
right? If I was going to be a better, communicator to guys like you who want to get to the next level. Like I knew in my heart, like, man, I got to make this sacrifice because if I don't learn this stuff and, try to get the knowledge, how can I come back home and help the kids who want to make it to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So that was a sacrifice that I made going to Mississippi because I didn't get paid. Everybody thought I got paid. I was working for free. Shout out to my man Brian Bender. Brian Bender was, somebody I met when he was at App State. That's my guy. He's now coaching at a junior college. I want to say it's in Iowa. But great guy. But he trusted me. You know what I'm saying? And he told me straight up, "Hey, B, I can't pay you, right? But you'll get the best experience of being a college coach, especially Division One JUCO, right? Because you get a lot of Division One players that transfer into these junior colleges just to get somewhere bigger.
Yeah.
So we were seeing, WVU coming in our gym, Virginia Tech coming in our gym, UCF coming in our gym, LSU coming in our gym, Tulsa, Texas Tech, Missouri, Georgetown. Like, I mean, our gym used to be loaded, and like these coaches didn't even know that like I was doing what I was doing for free. Like I'm taking Bob Huggins back from the airport to the gym, and then from the gym to back to the airport, and the airport was like 40 minutes away, right? And I drove him, not asking for money from the coach to like pay for gas, because I knew at the end of the day that's a dope experience. Like not everybody can
It's a
say
ride in
they
the car with a Bob Huggins. Yeah.
Bob Huggins, right?
Yeah.
Like so that's why I'm like when I talk about sacrifice, like that's what I mean. It's like when you sacrifice, the fulfillment out of it is gonna be so much better because you'll realize like the experiences is what's gonna make you better. You know what I mean? Like and you would never know what those experiences are unless you do sacrifice something, right? Like you wouldn't know where you are unless you sacrificed, the time and things of those nature to get where you are now. Like the endless hours in the gym, the endless hours we used to spend out here in your,
During
your
COVID.
driveway just playing ball. Like you had to sacrifice
Yeah.
something. I remember you telling me all the time, like we'll try to get some of your, friends to come work out with us, and they would rather go
He ain't
hang
showing
out.
up today.
Yeah, they ain't showing up today. Like they going to play video games, or they want to go do this, or they want to go get in the pool today because it's so hot. When we outside working hard in 98-degree weather,
Yeah.
like going hard for an hour or two. You know what I mean? So like that's what sacrifice is, man. It's about doing the things that, at the time you're not gonna really see the end goal, but like you're putting yourself through something that's building you to be tougher. So when things do come at you, you're able to like, fight them off, or you're able to like be the best that you can possibly be because you gave everything you had in those unseen hours, right? The times people didn't see it. Like, I bet you all your friends used to be like, Jack, why don't you come hang out? And you're like, bro, I just want to play ball. And they're like, bro, like, I don't know why you want to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to be the best. Or, people just always try to downplay you when
Yeah.
you want to sacrifice. And like, that's the hardest thing is it's so easy to listen to people.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you got to be like, it takes somebody tough to be able to. I mean, some people expect results instantly, and to be able to just know that, trust yourself and trust the process, and take that sacrifice. I mean, you're not going to be rewarded instantly. I mean, even if you think that sacrifice was bad for you, I mean, a couple years down the road, I mean, there will be a sign that
Yeah.
showed you that was an experience needed for you in order to
Yeah.
carry yourself the right direction.
And that's
So,
what a lot of people got to realize, man, is, don't think that when we say sacrifice that we're, trying
you can
to
make multiple sacrifices.
Yeah, like we're not trying to like
Yeah.
put it in that type of context. We're just loud like what I'm trying to tell, the audience is that, there will be times that you need to sacrifice. And it might be one of those things that God throws at you to see if you're gonna take it, and are you willing to sacrifice now? Or are you willing to just wait later down the line and I'll
Yeah.
put you through the same thing again,
Mhm.
and then you'll have to try to figure it out then. But it's
Yeah.
like, why not just figure it out now? Like try to understand the messages. Like I'm not like trying to push religion on anybody, but like, if you pray to a higher power or whatever, like, have faith and actually, try to listen when, certain things in life are thrown at you because they're thrown at you for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like I went through some tough times in my life. You know what I'm saying? Just like playing basketball my whole life injured, right? Like I honestly was sacrificing as much as I could. And I'm like, God, why me? Right? Why me? And I finally had to like realize like I can't keep asking why. I just kind of I need to listen now. And like
Yeah.
that's when I really stopped playing college ball because I didn't want to be old and not being able to move, and me actually choosing that path to stop when I did allowed me to give more of my knowledge back to the youth in training. So now like I might not be moving as much as I was when I was playing, but I'm moving a little bit. I'm staying active, but now I'm not putting as much stress on my body. Right now, I'm just kind of like giving guys like you like little nuggets to hold on
Yeah.
to, and I think that's the most powerful thing that like I've went through is realizing that I had to stop playing. Right, like that was the most devastating thing for me. I mean, I went through endless years of depression due to it because basketball was all I knew.
That was your
bro.
love.
It was my
Yeah.
love, literally. Like, and when my love left me, and it wasn't even like the love left me. It was just more so like
Not the ability not to be able to play
the
the game
ability
every
not to be
day.
able to play,
Yeah.
right? Like having to like really sit back and think about, dude, like I can't, like I can think about the move and I can like mentally be the best, but then physically, I'm just not there, right? And like that was the hardest thing for me to like really understand. But back to it, like the sacrifice that I made was through basketball, and I was able to learn a lot through the game. And now, I'm giving more of the game back. And I think that that's the beauty of the sacrifice. Like you say, you might not see it now. I didn't understand it when I was your age, right?
But now
Like,
you do.
and now I do, right? And like then I'm thinking like, why me, Lord? Like, why do I got to be the one to have bad knees, right? And like, why do I have to go through these, things where I play Division I basketball and then I get hurt, and then like I go through a mental breakdown, and then I end up, transferring to Roanoke College, which was still a great move, but I used to just ask God, why?
Yeah.
Not realizing like that He had a bigger purpose for me, and that was to, give the knowledge that I've acquired back to people who can be better than me. Like I think, you know, all adults, all, ex players of any sport should give back knowledge, right? You should make that sacrifice to give back knowledge just because the fulfillment of seeing somebody become a better you, it's no better feeling. Like when I look at you play, like it's like, damn, like the kid has so much more than what I had. And that doesn't make me like hate it. It makes me love
Yeah.
it even more because it's like, damn, like I was really able to help him be like 10 times better than what I was, right? Like,
Yeah.
so now all the knowledge that I did have and like I thought that I could never do nothing with it, I like poured it into someone like you and like it's all coming to fruition. And now I'm like, yo, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like to see it all happen literally, like when you was a kid to like now you're like an adult, like I'm looking at it like, God, now I see what your calling was, right? It was to pour what I already kind of acquired back into somebody else and watch them grow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just making those sacrifices, man, is much needed. And you just got to be able to think longevity when it comes down to sacrificing, right? Like you can't think that it's, oh, I'm gonna give, for example, like I'm gonna give, somebody $5 who needs $5 because I know God's gonna bless me tomorrow with 100. Like that doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like you be genuine and you make the sacrifice off basic genuineness and love and care, and you'll get rewarded down the line, no matter if it's today, tomorrow, 20 years from now, whatever. Or it might not even come back through you. It might come back through your parents or your dog or your child or whoever. Like that's the things that people don't realize is like those sacrifices you make will pay off in the long run. And it might not even be for you. It might be for somebody that you really love. And that's the beauty of, sacrificing is
it is.
you gotta be you gotta be a selfless person. Like not selfish, but selfless, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way our world really evolves is when we're able to be selfless and actually give back knowledge and give to people who need and, give a helping hand to somebody who, needs to be pulled up because they fell on the ground or something. Like those are the things that, help us become better people and in turn, like also just be a respected person. So
And
that's kind of huge.
Hitting on what we've been talking about the whole time. I'm kind of gonna go off a different piece, but you're older than me, and I'm about to turn 18. But in my eyes, like I haven't really lived that long. And like most sacrifices that you've made, that's been you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of my sacrifices, especially when I was little, I mean, I didn't understand any of it. But now, as I'm getting older, I do. It was my parents that sacrificed.
Yeah, man. For
Like,
sure.
the money. I mean, it's hard to talk about because, like, now I really realize, like, holy cow.
I would even say, like, not even cutting you short, but like you said, the money, and like that's one piece, but the most important piece is the time.
The time,
because the money is something we can always accrue back. Time, we'll never get that back. So,
Yep.
like, the amount of time that your parents sacrificed for you to be where you are, like, dude, that's the amazing piece.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you look at and you like, when I want to pay mom back and dad back, like, it won't even have to be monetary. It's just like I said, like, spending time with them is what they
Yeah.
love. You know what I mean? Like doing things with their son, watching their son go play basketball and be the best. Like they love seeing that. So like your sacrifice has been, partially fulfilled already through, just doing these accomplishments and, just being the person you are. Like your parents love that. And I think that that's the biggest piece.
I mean, not a lot of people have parents like mine, and I mean, I'm beyond grateful for what they've done for me. But like now, like back then when I was little, I used to think that was normal. Oh, all right, it's Sunday, we got to drive 3.5 hours to Richmond to practice. Nothing that big. I mean, I don't know. You got to pay for gas. You got to do this. You got to schedule. Oh, mom had to get a haircut. She's got to move it to another day. Her schedule's got to be expanded. Dad's got a contract to write. All this stuff, it builds up. And now, like I know, but like making that sacrifice when I was little to go to Richmond was one of my bigger sacrifices. That I mean, the connections that I've got from in the 757 is
757, 804.
It's different.
Like, yeah, I mean, you've kind of been everywhere, man, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
You see the world a completely different way when you go places like that, and the culture and just how everything's operated.
Yeah.
It's completely different than around here.
But it's helped you in so many ways.
Yeah.
That's why like the sacrifice you made was well worth it, because
Of
like
course.
you were able to take little pieces of things that you've learned in these certain scenarios and put it into one. And then it's kind of like now, like it was nothing playing against, the best players, because you've already been you've had to do that like since you were a kid. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like for you, it's like it's just second nature. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like, all right, let's go. Next game, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, sacrifice is huge, man. And I would just say, for you going forward, just remain humble, right? Like continue to work hard and, just keep being you. I think that's the biggest thing, that when people are growing up, they start finding other, different things about themselves. And some people can handle it, some people can't, right? But like for the grand part of it all is just like you're gonna be faced with adversity when you go to college, right? And that's gonna show you like, are you this type of player or are you that type of player?
Yeah.
And like that's the hardest thing for some people, because when they get to a school and they have to compete for something, like they don't know what it's like to sacrifice. So for you, you've been that kid who, I remember coaching you when you were a freshman in high school. But I remember like you should have been starting, right? Like I'm gonna be honest, like you should have been starting on that team, but you had to play on the bench and you had to play your role. And like for you, like that was a sacrifice, because you could have easily left the team and went to go play for somebody else, but you stuck it through, right? You stuck it through, you made the sacrifice, and now look at you.
Yeah,
right?
and you've got to think like some sacrifices aren't the right
Yeah,
sacrifice.
yeah, that's facts. That's
like
facts.
kind of going off like my season this year, like deciding to stay at Botetourt. Like I mean, I could have went anywhere I wanted to go, but I just like the man above was telling me like, stick to your roots, like stay. And I mean, it's been a great year, but nothing would be possible without the Lord and stuff. But sacrifices, I mean, there's a lot of risks.
It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
you said, man, when you sacrifice, you don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah, never.
No, never
It's
know.
unexpected.
Right? But like you said, like you gotta be able to have a relationship with God first off, to be able to understand the sacrifice that you're making. Because like you said, all sacrifices aren't the best, right? But if you can talk to the Lord and have that relationship with God and like, really pray to him and really, figure out what it is, trust him, figure out what it is that he really has in store for you, then he'll never lead you wrong when it comes to making that sacrifice, because he's going to make sure that, yeah, you'll probably go through some stuff in that, situation, but it's going to make you a stronger person. Like for me, bro, me choosing to go to Mississippi and coach for free has made me the strongest person, because I was broke. I had no money, right? Like I thought I knew basketball when I really didn't know everything until I went down there and actually had to learn. Like I thought I knew what heat was until I had to go down there and actually be in, 108-degree weather when it's really 94, but the humidity index is so high that it feels like 108. So like, just being down there, man, has helped me become who I am today. And also, like I said, making that sacrifice in high school was one of the best things that I did today, because, I just never, I felt like I wouldn't have achieved as much if I didn't make those right sacrifices, right? Like I said, you hit on the head with having the parents, right? It does, parents do play an important part when it comes to making sacrifices.
Not everybody has that. So,
not everybody has it. So, just having parents too who are there. I mean, even if you just have one, right? Like that one parent, like, or no parents, like you just have to be able to have faith in the Lord, right? And talk to the Lord and make sure that he could put you, in a great headspace and just keep you on the right path, no matter what it takes. Because as we know, temptation is real and everybody's going to get hit with it. And it's either you understand what your purpose is and you follow that, or you allow the devil to kind of steer you wrong, and then you fall off of that, that path, and then you end up, making the wrong decisions and then actually hurting your chances of being the best you. So for everybody out there, man, just be leery about the sacrifices you make, like my boy Jackson said, and don't make the wrong decision because you're doing it off of emotion. Make the right decisions based on your faith, right? Talk to whoever your higher power is, right? And just like you said, have faith, man. Have faith in that you're gonna be in the right hands and you're gonna be in the right spot. So
well, I think that was great stuff for the audience, for y'all to take away from this. But I do want to give a shout out to Bryce. I'm gonna put the link in the description. Bryce he's made sacrifices, make his own brand.
Yeah, man,
He's
I
got
definitely did.
NOKESTA and he's got
I got fire
BP3.
department. I got
Yep, fire department.
BP3. And that
Passion, persistence, and
it's so actually I'm gonna make it right for y'all, man. So BP3 just stands for be passionate, be purposeful, and be persistent.
Yep.
And these are the three words, the three things that I had to once I actually I said talk to the higher power and let him basically just bless me with knowledge. Those were the three words that he put in my head, and he was just kind of like, if you follow these three things, it'll make you feel fulfilled, right? Like you be doing what you love, and then you'll be loving what you do. And I mean, that's something that we all want to do when we, keep going in life is having fun with what we're doing, right? And making sure that we're getting the most out of it. So be passionate, be purposeful, be persistent, and just BP3. That's the motto.
Yes, sir. I hope y'all enjoyed episode 4. But as always,